dreams within reach. It's time to rise. Body, soul, and mind, open your eyes. Climbing higher, step by step. Real talk, no regrets, get set. One step, one love, we rise. Walk the talk, break free. Get to the truth, your story's the proof.
Oh my God, that theme song never gets old. Welcome to the Living Proof Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Keys. And no, this is not a video podcast today. This is just plain old audio, little old me, as we unlock divine intuition, the science and faith behind your sixth sense. Wow, what a day that we are living in. It is hard to believe that we have come this far from 2020, but it just continues. It is back to back. I mean, this is just relentless. They're breaking the bank with psionics and UFOs and everything else, uncovering all kinds of stuff. I myself, like you, most likely, since 2020, have been dealing with my own personal issues. I am overcoming Parkinson's. So part of this podcast is I've been working with people, well, mostly for 20 years and helping coaching and people building their businesses. I built all kinds of stuff myself. And then 2020 came, I got hit like a ton of bricks and started developing even more symptoms. Thought it was long COVID, but look out. No, it's something different. Neurological craziness. So this podcast, for those of you that don't know, is about me getting back, practicing what I preach, walking the talk, because so many of you in my mind are also like myself, empaths and people that were putting themselves at a deficit, trying to help everybody else, being that rock, being that go-to, being that person that people could count on, as you allowed yourself to kind of sit and simmer and stagnate, and the deeper levels of you began to lessen and lessen and lessen as you gave everything away to everyone else. Unknowingly, though, right? So, and maybe that's not you. Maybe you're just listening to this because the topic, unlocking divine intuition, the science of and faith beyond the sixth sense or behind your sixth sense. I want to dive into this today. We're going to break down what we're going to talk about today. First, the term psychic. Taboo for Christians like myself, taboo for a lot of people out there. That topic, the psychic, often conjures up images of crystal balls, neon lit palm readers on the side of the road, psychic lines that you call in, like this is Dionne Warwick, and that's too old for many of you. However, science and psychology and spirituality, they're suggesting that humans actually possess untapped potential and perceptive abilities. You're going to hear a lot about this in the upcoming months with the UAP things that we've been uncovering. Whether they're aliens or angels, the end result's going to be the same, right? In a lot of ways. They're going to be manipulated and they're going to be utilized. They're going to facilitate some type of false flag, most likely, right? So in this rapidly changing world, we need to know what is what's black and white. If you were like myself, if you're already operating at half speed on certain areas, like, I'm dealing with other stuff, so I'm overstressed about that. I need my intuition at the top, right? I need it at the top level. So we want to hone these intuitive skills to become essentially super soldiers in a sense, spiritually. So this episode is going to aim to demystify intuition. We're going to debunk myths surrounding psychic phenomenon a little bit. We're going to provide some evidence-based insights into developing your innate perceptive abilities, right? So all the while, we're going to keep the conversation a little bit light. We're going to drop a couple jokes. We're going to keep it real. And in the world of, think of this, right? You can't go on YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok, or whatever it is, and discern whether it's real or not. Because we live in a world full of AI deepfakes, misinformation, and in this rapid global shift, intuition isn't just a nice thing to have, it's essential. It is a survival skill. It is something that we are having to go back to the ancient eons to tap in back from the garden, right? They even used to say that Neanderthal actually had possibly telepathy because they didn't have a language to talk, right? So if you're grunting, your gut better know where to go. So we're going to cover topics like the real science behind gut feelings, intuitive decision making. We're going to touch on the declassified CIA research of remote viewing. Yeah, that's the government studied this as well. We're going to debunk a couple myths separating fact and fiction in that psychic phenomenon. Also, how faith and prayer and spirituality enhance discernment. And then we're going to go over a few practical ways to develop your intuition. And of course, we want to start out with a joke, right? Let's keep it light. Let's make it fantastic. Where do fortune tellers dance? I'll give you 1, 2, and hit that like button and hit that subscribe. Where do fortune tellers dance? At a crystal ball. I know it's I'm like, I'm laughing like I'm like 2 years old, but where do fortune tellers dance? At a crystal ball. That's great. I love it, right? So I'd like to first tell you that intuition is going to save your life. It's going to save your life. And if you don't develop it, you're going to be at a disadvantage. I'll give you a real world example, right? Imagine an ER doctor with a patient whose vitals are normal, no fever, they're stable, clean x-ray, but something feels off, right? They showed up, they had a symptom, they don't know what it is. There's nothing that's really showing on it's like driving into the mechanic and your engine light suddenly shuts off and they just are like, oh, I don't know, come back when it's on. Well, you don't want to do that with your body. When life and death is at the helm, you don't want to come back and wait for the light to come on again. So the doctor trusts that gut feeling. They push for more tests. And then they uncover a life-threatening condition just in time to save that patient's life. Now, you can call that coincidence, you can call that an act of God, you can call that intuition. But what it is your brain is processing subtle cues before logic catches up. Intuition's not magic, it's a science, it's survival, it is spiritual wisdom, it is given to us by God. And you can increase that like any muscle, right? So here's another joke, right? Let's keep it light. So think of that. I went to see a psychic and I knocked on her door and she yelled, "Who is it?" So I laughed because obviously she's no good. You get it? I went to see a psychic. I knocked on her door and she yelled, "Who is it?" So I left. Okay, if you're not laughing at that, you need to get laid or something. I don't know, and make sure it's in a committed relationship. Don't go out and just sell yourself for pennies on the dollar. Don't do that. Well, there's no pennies anymore, so I guess we're going to Bitcoin. I guess we're going. Look out! It starts with the penny, right? It starts with the thumb and the dam. Okay, so let's look at intuition from an evolutionary context, and we're tapping into the story of the doctor, right? Our ancestors relied on heightened awareness. And that heightened awareness helped them find food, and it helped them know when to run. It helped them to detect predators, right? And that was an acute perception that was not only essential for their survival, but it was something that was part of their day-to-day life. For instance, if you were to walk into a jungle now, there's so many signs, signals, and smells that are happening all around you. If you've been living in a city or if you've been living in a level of comfort, you're not going to be able to actually translate those. Your communication skills for survival are at an all-time stagnant level, right? So another part of this is indigenous cultures. We hear that term a lot. I think it's abused actually because I think we're all indigenous to the earth, and I don't know why people need to want to popularize certain things. I get it. If people were, there's always been winners and losers no matter where. There's always been war, right? There's always been killing and bloodshed. So I think that if we don't get past these hurdles, we're going to have a bigger problem. So let's just look at a lot of indigenous communities. And I'm talking about whether it's Norwegian or whether it's African, whether it's Bolivian, whether it's Indian, whether it's West Indian, whether it's people from Asia. Indigenous communities that were around before there was fire on the stove, before there was fuel in a car, that were there when you bow and arrowed it, right? And believe me, there were people in the northern areas of Europe that used bows and arrows, right? Part of my lineage comes from a tribe of people called the Doggerland people. They were essentially Neanderthal, and they lived in what's now the North Sea, in between Ireland and Europe, Norway. And they wore animal skins. They looked like Neanderthal. So, but it is what it is. They actually honed their intuitive abilities. They used them for navigation, for hunting, and for understanding natural cycles and patterns. They used it to know when to plant. They used it to know when to move. And they had to hone their natural skills to be able to tap into the resources that the earth shows you. Even birds know when to fly south, right? So urbanization has had a huge impact on most of us, and it's creeping into the jungles. It's creeping into the areas where people are still in tune and in touch with those natural instincts. The modern city life that we experience, while it is comfortable, AC is great, refrigerator at 32 degrees is fantastic, but what it is it's a constant overstimulus, constant distraction. It's dulling your natural ability to survive. It's dulling your senses. It's dulling your smell. It's dulling your taste. It's dulling your eyesight. It's dulling your touch. It's dulling your ability to interpret the environment around you. Of course, yes, you'll develop and you'll overcome, like somebody winning a video game, for your construct, for your area. But to be honest, a city is only 3 to 7 days from complete chaos. So I would encourage anyone listening to this, get outside and start learning how to live in nature, because where the world is right now, we're only 3 to 7 days from mass panic. And I'm not trying to instill fear, but I'm trying to remind you that the natural way of life that we've become accustomed to and that we've acquired is not our full potential. Your full potential isn't sitting in front of a desk 9 to 5, sitting in traffic, coming home and sitting on the sofa, sitting in LED light, listening on the phone, swiping right. That is not the maximum overload. That's not the epitome of what your physical body was designed to do. You were designed to hike up mountains, to traverse lands. You were designed to be able to track, to eat, to grow, to literally live at one with nature. And it seems crazy that would even be a possibility, but it is. So, all humorous aside, if there was a rustle in the bushes, that would either mean dinner or being dinner, right? So now our biggest threat is just missing a text message, right? So I want to look into this too, because I want to debunk a couple things before I move forward and start talking about what can we do, because there's a lot of common misconceptions. And of course, not all psychic claims are real, but it doesn't mean that intuition and that prophecy and some of those things aren't. It's like everything you see in the sky that's unidentified is not an angel or alien or non-human intelligence, but some of it is, right? If even 10% is real of everything that we talk about, if even 2% is real, the placebo effect for that, right? If I've seen people healed, I've been healed of different things, not this, but it being healed of different things. It's very real. A placebo is, do we understand that the complete potential of that? No. Is it partially psychic? Probably. Is it possibly self-induced? Is it possibly that some of the problems that you're battling are actually psychosomatic and they become one with your environment and your whole being? And that when you add a placebo, that you're shutting down your own efforts to create the sickness? Possibly. We don't know. But in reality, nobody can say. So, for instance, here's a myth. Psychics can predict the exact future. Well, nobody can predict the exact future, right? People will get lucky. Like if you look at all of Nostradamus' quatrains, there's a lot of them that don't lead anywhere. There's a lot of Edgar Cayce that leads to zero. But there's a lot of Baba Vanga that leads to zero, right? But when you get 1 or 2 or 3 things right, then suddenly these people are prophets. Now, Am I arguing the legitimacy of that? No. But what I'm saying is that all of us are right 2 times a day, like a clock, right? So think of it like this. Humans are incredible, and they're incredible at pattern recognition, and they're incredible at making subconscious predictions based on patterns and based on previous events and based on potentialities of a given system. We do this effortlessly, subconsciously. That's how gifted we are. Another myth, only gifted people have intuition, like a psychic. I've been able to predict things and that are unbelievable, and I don't know how. I've been able to call a lot of things. I called like the CV vaccine, what it was going to be in May of 2020, and it ended up being that. Where did that come from? We could argue a lot of things. Was I lucky? Possibly, but it doesn't matter. Some of these things lead down to the path of we know what we know. So in my reality, everybody has intuition. It's not just gifted people. It's not just some people. It's just other people train it. Other people are better at utilizing it. Other people have fostered it, right? I want to talk about this thing in the Bible that's a word of knowledge in 1 Corinthians 12:8. It sounds a lot like divine intuition to me, a word of knowledge, right? A prophecy. When you have a word of knowledge, when you get that inclination from God. So that's in the Bible. I just want to tie that in. So there's this thing that I like to talk about, the science of intuition. So the science of intuition, it's not woo-woo, it's biological, it's physiological, it's psychological, right? There's a gut-brain connection. There's a back for this. There's 100 million neurons literally called a second brain. You've got a gut brain. That gut brain gives you a lot of information, and if you're not utilizing it, it goes nowhere. And you're just going to have these weird false feelings, false flags, and you're going to be like, what is this? I don't know. I can't listen to it. I don't know how to interpret it. I don't know my body's language. Then there's this thing called the anterior cingulate cortex. That's a part of your brain that detects errors and threats before you consciously recognize them. The other thing I'd like to talk about, which has been in this scientific backing, which you've heard a lot about, is a particular agency, the C to the I to the A, spent millions of dollars on psychic spies. I've worked with the Monroe Institute at different times. I've worked on working with Project Stargate. I've done a lot of other different things myself to try to facilitate that. They did Project Stargate, and some of these results were shockingly accurate, right? They've described hidden bases. They've described how Mars looks. They've described different things. They've described future events. Look at Project Looking Glass. Look at, if hypothetically, let's take the 1893, the adventures of Baron Trump, the last president. What is that, right? We've got hieroglyphics showing helicopters and land speeders and firearms. What is that? Is it an overlap of reality, or people seeing the future, or the remote viewing and they don't know how? Don't know. We would like to know? Yeah, but that program was shut down. So some believe it still influences the military training, as we've heard lately, called psionics and UAP, and other UAP task force are using the same kind of thing. I've literally done meditative, I've developed a meditative process based on the Merkaba meditation that's ancient. And I've developed a frequency where I've been able to 2 or 3 different times out of 15. Is it completely foolproof? No. But is it a good average? Yes. I've done it and then seen an orb, but not a light orb, a metal orb in the sky. I had witnesses of it. I even posted a picture of it on my Patreon at one point in time. So you're going to hear this term a lot more, called psionics. So are they soul vehicles, and they take us from here to somewhere else? I don't know. Are they re-engineered craft from whatever? I don't know. Are they angelic vehicles? I don't know. But I do know that exists. I do know that term psionic exists. I have a funny take on this. So the government says that psychic stuff isn't real, but then they also spent millions and millions of trying to make it real. So make that make sense to me. Okay, so I wanted to talk about bridging the gap between that intuition and faith, and how do we justify it. I did mention the Corinthian scripture and the word of knowledge. A lot of religious traditions, they will kowtow to this. They will get a little bit hot under the collar if we try to connect these to different parts of the book. of the Bible, of the Quran, of other things. So I don't want to get into too many people's beliefs, but I do want to bridge the gap by saying a lot of religious traditions already acknowledge intuition. It's just under a different name. So a couple examples would be Paul in Acts 16, 6 through 7. He was prevented by the Holy Spirit from going to certain places, rescued by his gut instinct, by the Spirit. And that's divine guidance in action. Another one I like to do, I was rescued. I had my face crushed when I was 21. I didn't listen to that divine intuition. I went and my face was crushed. So I went through a long time, and that's probably what caused my Parkinson's at this point. Had I listened to my divine intuition, I might have avoided that, right? So we've got prayer and what people call downloads, where you have an answer just kind of drop into your mind while you're praying or you're meditating. That's also intuition at work. Joseph in the Bible, he would get warnings, right? Matthew 2, 13 and 15. Joseph had a dream warning him to flee with Mary and Jesus. Now that sounds a lot like a download. That sounds a lot like divine intuition. That sounds a lot like the Holy Spirit was helping with the divine gifts. We could argue semantics all day long, but my point again is to survive what's coming and to change the future, to give us the highest potential to avoid or to avert things, to live a better life, to be more connected, to have a better, brighter future, to raise a better family, to have a deeper dialogue with your body and the divine. We want to strengthen intuition because intuition is a muscle and you got to train it, right? So I want to just give you some practical steps on how to enhance your tuition. One is, I like to call this observational training. And that's where you begin to notice small details that other people miss and you remind yourself, right? Describe things in detail. Don't just say, oh yeah, he was wearing a red shirt. No, try to remember the details of it. Don't let it get too far. So glance at something in your house and then try to describe it. Open up a picture to a magazine, if you still read magazines, or scroll a picture. Look at the picture for 5 seconds, close your eyes, and try to write everything down that you saw. That's observational training. This is one step when we go through the Monroe Institute or when we start looking at Project Stargate and some of these other things. This is one of the steps that you can use to begin to training yourself on how to catalog and how to bring things to the table. The other is gut check journaling, right? I want you to write down your gut feelings. I want you to review those and how often you were right. The other thing that I'd like for you to do is practice prayer or meditation. You could call it either way. It's for your faith-based. Meditation, mindfulness. I want you to get quiet in the mental noise so that the intuition kind of hits you hard. It comes through without any bias, any distractions. Don't put any kind of expectation on it, though. Just begin to hear things. Just experience the environment and let it come to you and let it kind of flow into your field. If you are a faith believer like myself, one thing that you could do is prayer and then listening for God's guidance to enhance your discernment. That is a great thing to do as well. I wanted to do I want to hit you with a joke? I don't know if I think I might. Should I? Maybe not. I think we've had enough jokes for that. But I was thinking, why developing intuition? Okay, so here we go. Okay, so here's an employee. Employee says, hey, how about this shirt? The psychic says, no, that shirt's too small. The employee says, but you didn't even try it on. The psychic says, well, I don't have to. I'm a medium. Okay, that's the last stupid joke. All right. Okay. So my closing thoughts on this topic. It is pretty cool, but developing intuition isn't about predicting lottery numbers, first off. It's not about also finding the love of your life and manifesting it like some kind of voodoo, right? It's more about fine-tuning your ability to sense truth, to avoid danger, to make better choices. And in the world of AI and all this information overload, if you don't take this seriously, how will you tell the difference between a deep fake, AI, and other things when it gets better and better and better? You're going to have to use your intuition. It's your best defense. So remember, your intuition is real and it's backed by science. You use it daily, and often you're using it without realizing it. But the more that you do, the better you get. It can be strengthened like a muscle. And as the world is getting noisier, those who develop intuition will be able to navigate it better. So, and in my mind, what's next in the future of intuition? I think that you're going to see AI. It's going to test your discernment. And I think that you're going to see through neuroscience, it's going to validate. We're going to see a resurgence of ancient wisdom, meditation, these other things, where the mind and body connection is going to show up a lot more. And the psionic UAP connection is just the tip. It's just the tip, baby. But it is the tip of the iceberg. And the ability to sense these subtle truths and changes in your environment are going to give you a competitive advantage in business, in personal life, love life, and in survival. So I'd like to give you a challenge before I go. Try this for the next 7 days. Pay attention to the small gut feelings that you get. Write them down, and then look back at the end of the week and just see if anything surprises you. See if anything kind of like overrides that logical brain where you get caught up and you don't look deeper. And then if you'd like to explore more about the intuitive nature of love and relationships, check out my book on Amazon, Putting the Soul Back in Soulmates. And if you loved this episode, tag me on Instagram at Ryan Keys to Love for now. And then subscribe, like, share this on Facebook, share this wherever you can. And then join me on Patreon. I'll put a link in the description. And I'd love for you, again, subscribe, share, and just start trusting your gut, right? Your gut's going to get you a lot further than you gave it credit for. And this episode is for you. It wasn't an accident. This is the first step, the first confirmation of your intuition that you are on time, on purpose, and everything is happening with purpose. Peace, light, and love, and I will see you all soon. Have a beautiful evening or afternoon in the world, wherever you are. And I'm going to play the song that I wrote again. I've gotten so many good things from that. It's crazy. Here you go.
Dreams within reach, it's time to rise. Body, soul, and mind, open your eyes. Climbing higher, step by step. Real talk, no regrets get set. One step, one love, we rise. Walk the talk, break free. Get to the truth, your story's the proof.